Hey everybody, welcome. So happy to have you here today for 6 ways to say no. This is our first ever lunchtime webinar, so this is really cool to see all of you popping in, and I loved getting your messages before we started the recording. And you know, if you can see behind me, it's the middle of July, but it's pretty dark outside. It's a bit of a hot and humid, and it looks like we're about to have a good rainstorm. So I am especially glad that we didn't all drive to a restaurant or a conference center for today's meeting. So this is kind of interesting. I told you in email before we started today, I don't really know how long this is going to take today. I think it's going to be about 40 minutes. I'd love to give you a little time of your lunch hour to, maybe get a few things, personal things done before you get right back to work. But I've never given this talk all by itself. 6 ways to say no, how I learned to say no. I've never given it all by itself. I talk about these tactics and these strategies all the time with my one-on-one clients, and we do spend a lot of time talking about this in Leadership Academy, but I've never done it all by itself as a one-on-one presentation. So I actually wrote the presentation for you last night, but I do think it's important because as I am out on the road and I'm meeting you guys face to face and you're sharing your struggles and your challenges and your wins with me, I'm seeing that I'm not the only person who struggled with not being able to say no and saying yes to absolutely everything. So I do have a great presentation for you. Let me go ahead and pull it up. Let's see here. All right, now if you have any questions while I'm talking, go ahead and type them in. There's a chat where you can chat, but there's another space that says Q/A. So if you go ahead and type your questions in there, that's really easy for me to come back at the end and answer your questions. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the presentation first, then I'm going to stop the recording. So for those of you who have questions, I'll stay on here with you up to an hour after we're done giving the presentation and answer your private questions one-on-one, but those won't be recorded. So go ahead and put your questions or your comments or your thoughts or your challenges into that button that says Q/A, and I will get back to them as soon as we're done with this presentation. So today we're talking about 6 ways to say no and still be nice. I have a warning for you, an important disclaimer. Once you learn this information from me, and for some of you this will be a refresher, but once you embrace this information and you begin to integrate some of these strategies into your life, you may notice some unfamiliar peaceful feelings. You may notice some acceleration in your productivity. And as always, anytime that you get a tip from me that you implement and it works really well for you, I would love to hear about it. So let me introduce you to a woman who never said no. This is the Beth Caldwell, maybe 2004, 2005. Business was pretty good at this time. I was extremely active with my entrepreneurial business. I had my women's group, Pittsburgh Professional Women. I had my 2 boys, Brian and Kevin. And this picture, they are in 6th and 8th grade. Brian's in 8th grade, Kevin's in 6th. And I had a magazine called the Pittsburgh Kids Directory, and I wrote a column in there every month. I owned the magazine, and I wrote a column in there every month, and this is the picture from that column. I was really visible in the community. I was very, very active in the kids, both of the kids' schools. They never were, they're 2 years apart. At that age, they're never in the same school, right? And Brian was active in Boy Scouts. Kevin was in scouting at the time. They were both in every kind of sport. And I started my own business. I left my corporate position in social work because I wanted to be involved in my kids' events. I wanted to be involved in my children's lives. And I enjoy being active in my church, in the community, with important causes that are meaningful to me. And so I didn't say yes to everything because I felt obligated. I said yes to everything because I enjoyed doing everything. But the problem is that I had my own business, my own company. So, I'm a divorced mom. I'm responsible for making sure that the mortgage is paid and that the car payment is made. And so while I'm crowding my schedule with things that I enjoy doing and things that are important to do, my actual work was not getting done during the day. So I was having to do my work in the evenings and on the weekends, and I was giving up sleep and I was giving up personal time so that I could get my work done, because I was so overcommitted with these other important things there, and they are important, but they weren't paying my bills. Okay. So what happened here was this woman, although things look good in this picture, and things were definitely good in this picture, what you don't see is this was a woman who was pretty frantic and staying up really, really late at night, and sometimes not even going to bed at night in order to get all of my business work done and completed, because things were really out of balance here. I said yes enthusiastically. And I had a tendency to, even if I was just on a committee for a project, I would go ahead and do, this committee's work. And I could go ahead and take on that committee's work, right? Because I could do things well, and I could do them fast, and I was very effective. And, if you're like that and you offer to do other people's work, yeah, they'll let you do it. They're happy to get paid for a job and let you do it for them. So I had some pretty bad habits, and I had trained a lot of people that I would do their work for them. So, you can only live like that for a very short amount of time before something gives. I wasn't sleeping right. I wasn't sleeping enough. I wasn't eating well. I wasn't taking care of myself. I was under way too much stress. And no matter how old you are, you can only do that for a very short amount of time. So in my mid-30s, I became very seriously ill with pneumonia. Started with a little cough, and it turned into a full-blown bronchitis, turned into a couple days on the couch, and then of course I went right back to work and wound up in the hospital with pneumonia. And I was ill for months, you guys. I didn't get just a little bit sick. Pneumonia is nothing to play with. And I wound up in my mid-30s with kids that age who did not drive, who needed to go to their school events. I wound up on the couch for months, for more than 3 months, getting help from my friends, my family members, my church friends, and I had a visiting nurse coming and taking care of me 3 days a week, and then I had an in-home aide to help me to walk up my steps and get dressed every day. Boy, I'll tell you, that was a scare. There was a moment during that time when I thought to myself, what if, and how are these boys going to be if I don't get better? And so that was a big wake-up call in my life. It was a big wake-up call. And at that time, this was at a time when I don't think we didn't have cell phones like this yet, but I did have a laptop computer, and I did have a Yahoo calendar, but most people didn't use a digital calendar yet at that time. I still had a paper calendar. And, I was really proud of myself. I had a lot of pride in my calendar before I got sick. When somebody would say to me, do you think you could help on this committee? Or do you think you could take on this project? Or I need some help with, right? These things, the same questions that you get. And I would just be so proud when I would open up my calendar and say, let's see if we can find some time to get together, right? And I'd open up my calendar, and there would just be so many things written on there that there was no white space whatsoever. And I would just love it when another woman would look at my calendar and go, oh, right? I was very proud of my busyness, right? I felt that was my importance, right? And so that was something that I think I felt. It made me feel important. I think it made me feel worthwhile and necessary and needed. And those are things that I like. In fact, I wonder sometimes if the feeling of being needed is even more valuable to me than getting paid. It certainly was at that time in my life. Okay. And so what happened was I got sick. My calendar got wiped out. It went from so much handwriting on there that you couldn't see a white space to nothing but white space, because I couldn't go to my appointments. I couldn't go to my events. I couldn't do anything. And so therefore I wasn't continuing to book. Everything got canceled. My friends and family were calling people and saying, Beth is sick, she can't make her appointments, and she'll call you when she's better. And it went to nothing. And I knew that something had to change, you guys, but I had created some pretty deep habits, so some ways of doing things that I had nurtured for a long time. So even though you get sick or you have a challenge in life or you decide that something is going to be different, making the decision that things are going to be different is a little bit it's easier to make the decision than it is to actually implement those changes. But, you know, I knew that I could not go back to the way that life was. And so I decided that things had to change, and I was going to have to cut some things out of my life, and I was going to have to start saying no to some of these things that were not paying our bills. They were important, but we needed to reset our priorities in the house, okay? So I'm going through this really difficult time, and I'm sort of in my recovery. I got sick in February and was sick for February, March, April, May. I started getting up and doing things, and I went back to work early May. The doctor said I could go back to work half a day, 2 days a week. So guess what I did? I went back to work 4 days that week, wound up back in the hospital and down for another 2 weeks, right? I'm tough. Some of these habits are really hard to break. So it's kind of towards the end of May, early June, and a friend of mine down the road has she has a home party of not like a Tupperware Pamper Chef party. She has having a coaching party because coaching is kind of new. So she has a coach that has a new coaching business, and she's going to do some coaching. Small group, there were maybe 6 or 8 of us. I was not doing well. Paul had to drive me. I wasn't driving yet. But it was a beautiful summer day, and he drove me down and dropped me off because he wasn't doing any coaching stuff. It was all girls. And I went and sat on my friend's porch, and this coach talked to us about coaching and the importance of coaching and the business. I can't believe I am a coach now, but I didn't think I would be at that time. It was something we were all learning about. And they were very juicy and excited that I was going to be there because, you know, like I was a bit of a mess at the time. And this was going to be a little feather in her cap to coach me in front of the other ladies and really make a difference. I didn't know I was being set up for this because I really wasn't myself yet. But she explained just like you do in any home party, she explained the overview of coaching and how it can help people. And then she said, there were, I think, 4 or 5 of us on the porch. And she said, now, does anybody want to volunteer, Beth? And I was like, well, sure, I'll volunteer. I mean, my life is a mess. You know, I just been sick for months, and, you know, I just went on and on with my stuff, and I'm just overbooked and overscattered, and I have too many things to do and not enough time to do it. And I feel overwhelmed all the time. And she's like, okay. So she asks me a few coaching questions. We talk about it a little bit, and she finds out a little bit about the way I live my life and the kind of business I have. And she says, all right, Beth, I'd like you to close your eyes, and I'd like you to imagine with me what your life would be like if. Now I'm sitting there on my friend's front porch with my eyes closed, and this wonderful, very credible coach takes me through this visualization where she puts me in her life, okay? And she says, you get up every morning, and it's early. It's before 6 because you went to bed early. And you have slept well, and you're ready to take on the day bright and early, and you have your very organized to-do list, and you have your day structured, and you have enough clients, but not too many clients. And everything is very organized. And she's taking me through this visualization, guys. I'm starting to feel a little sick. Like I'm getting sweaty. It's way too structured for me, okay? And she takes me through the whole day, and the end of the day, and I have a very healthy meal. And so she takes me out of this, and oh, now open your eyes. And now everybody is looking at me on the porch like, are you fixed? Did she fix you, right? And she says, now, Beth, how do you feel? Now, the right answer is, oh my gosh, you're right. That's just what I need. But actually, that's not true. That was the expected answer. But the true answer was, honestly, I would hate that life. What? That was not expected. That was a little bit of an uncomfortable and awkward moment. on that porch that day, but it is one of the most important moments in my life, because what I learned about myself is, you know what? I like being busy. You might even say, I like things a little chaotic. I enjoy that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not for her. It might not be for you. It might not be for everybody, but that's what I like. And what I realized was it doesn't have to be one extreme or the other. It doesn't have to be an insanely cluttered calendar or a completely strictly organized, categorized, customized, color-coded, you know, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be that either. But I had let some boundaries go. I had let my typical enthusiasm go overboard. And I had gotten myself overbooked to the point of illness, right? So, but what I learned was that I didn't have to change. I didn't have to become somebody else. I just needed to implement some boundaries, okay? So that might have been the most important coaching session that ever happened to her too, because she realized that everybody doesn't want the same things in life, right? So what happened? It took me a little while. It took me about 2 years to get really good at saying no. I goofed up a little bit in the early times because, you know, I had trained people that I could do the work, that I could do my work and their work and other people's work too, right? And so when I started saying that I couldn't do everything, some people were like, it's about time. But some people were saying, well, what do you mean? And they really pushed back, and I had to really find my ground. Now today, years later, people don't push me like that because people respect my boundaries. But back then, I had trained them that I didn't have any boundaries. All right, so what happened? I got good at staying focused on what was important to my career and my family, and things really shifted in my business. Things became a lot easier. My writing career took off with a column in the Pittsburgh Business Times within a couple years. The Smart Business magazine came right after that. I got to do the Pittsburgh Professional Women Leadership Academy for Women, without a doubt the most important thing I've ever done. And my 2 most popular books came out after this because I was able to focus on those books and do a really good job on them. I was able to carve out time to do them and do them well. And then many of you already know that I've gotten to work on stage with Susie Orman. And most recently, the past 4 years, I've been able to work on stage with Steve Harvey, who's been a tremendous success mentor to me and personal mentor to me. And it's been great. So all of that chaoticness has shifted into what I do today, which is I still do the speaking on stages. I still do the writing. Most of you who are here today have met me at a conference. This is the end of July. So you have met me at a conference in May, June, and July during the conference season, especially a lot of the leadership conferences that have happened this summer. And I've been able to meet you out in somewhere in the world at a leadership conference, and you signed up for this webinar today. So I still do the speaking, I still do the writing, and I do a little bit of success coaching for women, where I work with women who want to be better leaders, or women who own their own businesses and want to be more successful at systemizing their lives and their businesses. And by being able to be focused on my speaking and my writing and my coaching, I've been able recently to have a great dream come true. For many years, I had a dream to take women on a retreat. And just this past June, I got to take these lovely ladies on a retreat. And you know, this photo is not touched up. This is at a beautiful place called the Oak Lodge. You have to check it out. It's in near Ligonier, Pennsylvania in the Laurel Highlands. And we went away for a writing weekend. And it was fantastic. This was the deck outside of the bed and breakfasts where we worked. So this is when we were, I think, right after dinner, the first or second night. It was a really beautiful time, and it was a dream come true. And that would not have happened had I not gotten good at saying no. Okay, so why am I teaching a webinar on this? You know, I had to write this webinar for you guys last night. I've never given this as a presentation on stage. This is a part of a presentation that I spend a few minutes on. You might have heard me talk about this recently. I've written an article about this a couple of years ago for a magazine that I wrote for, and it was in a holiday issue, but I've never given this as a presentation. I've talked about it with my private coaching clients, the importance of saying no. I've talked about it in my Leadership Academy, but I've never given 1 hour to this topic. So why am I doing this now? You know, I was asking myself that question last night, which is why I put this slide in here. You know, it's sort of like what you do, whatever you do for a living. I know who's on here today. We have several attorneys on here. Hello, thanks for sharing your lunch hour with me. We've got a few financial advisors here. I see Dr. Tracy, who is a naturopathic doctor. You know, all of you know your stuff, right? And you know it. It's a part of your DNA, whether it's law or health or numbers, it comes naturally to you. And what happened for me was that I've developed the skill of saying no. It was a huge problem for me. I developed the skill on how to say no. It took me a good 3.5 years to get good at it, but then I got good at it and I forgot that people struggle with it. Just like you, if you became a lawyer because you wanted to change people's lives or you wanted to make things easier for people, you went to law school and you learned everything, you forgot about the things that you didn't know, right? So when I've been out this summer and I've been talking to you and this topic has come up and I've seen some of you go like, I don't know if I can do that. I had forgotten how much I struggled with this. Now here's something that I do know, okay? This is so important for you to hear this. Regardless of your title at work, regardless of where you are in your family, if you're a single mom like me, if you're married in a traditional family, if you're whatever you are in your family, you are influencing other people every day at work, at home, and in the community. People watch how you react to things. They notice the choices that you make, and good or bad, you influence other people. Okay, so if you are somebody who is saying yes, 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 that really is your job, but of course I'll do it, right? You're teaching other women to do the same thing, regardless of whether you're the top leader at your company, you're somebody in the middle, or you're at the entry level. You're influencing other people all around you, okay? And empowered women empower other women, and that's why I'm teaching this topic today. So are you ready to stop saying yes to everything and start only saying yes to the important? Let's get going. So option number 1. Now, so first of all, there are people in the world that have no trouble saying no. They just say no. Okay, and I have friends that just say no. They're not here today. They don't need this class. I think one of the reasons that we don't say no, those of you who are here with me today, is because we want everybody to like us. We want to fit in. We want to be approved. We want to feel important. We want to feel like we're contributing. And also all that, and somewhere at some time in our life, somebody who loves us planted a little message in our brain that it's rude to say no. It's not polite to say no. And so we've been trained, it's been embedded in us to not say no. And so when you get yourself into a situation like I was in, or maybe, and I hope you never do, I hope that you listen to this or somebody else tells you about this and you can go, you know, I'm not going to waste all that time doing things for other people when I can be focused on my career and I can find my success much sooner. Look, I still like to support causes and I still like to help the community, but instead of going around and hanging up flyers on telephone poles now, I can write a check to a charity. I'm still making an influence. It's just on a different level, okay? But it's not easy for you to just wake up one day and go, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore, and start saying no to everybody. It wasn't possible for me. So I eased into it, and I found that a very easy way to say no is by saying, I don't think so. Now, not being rude about it, not like, I don't think so, not like that. But just, let me give you an example. I'm gonna give you a great example. Okay, first of all, I'm gonna tell you a story, but let me give you an easy example. If your child asks you if they can buy some piece of electronic equipment that's very expensive, I don't think so is a really hard thing to argue with. okay? If somebody asks you to volunteer for something and you say, I don't think so, it's not a yes or a no. You see, with a yes, they get what they want. They get to go to the next stage and they get to say to you, okay, well, here's what you have to do and I'll email you, or here's, take this pile. If you say no, sometimes that gives the person the opportunity to say, I can't believe you said no. I mean, how could you say no? This is what people said to me. Most people didn't say this to me. Most people, when I started saying I don't think so, said, you know what, Beth, it's about time. Let somebody else do all this work, right? But some people did push back and they said, what do you mean? I mean, we're depending on you. You have helped us with this for years, and what are we going to do now? You can't just leave us high and dry. When you say no, that leaves them open to say that. But it's a little bit hard to reply to I don't think so, okay? And so, but I'll give you a great example. Paul and I were at my mom's just maybe 2 weeks ago. We went over to my mom's house and he was doing some, handyman work around the kitchen and outside. He was doing some landscaping for her, and I was helping with her flowers and doing some stuff in the kitchen. And it was a Saturday afternoon. And this knock on the front door. Now, it's very suspicious in our house when somebody comes to the front door, right? Because, in our family, everybody goes in the back door. So immediately we think delivery or salesperson. So my mom kind of looks at me. Oh, yeah, I'll go check it out. So I go to the front door. I open the door. And there's a very friendly young man at the door. And I was like, oh, great. My mom lives at the top of a hill. Now, years ago, if somebody walked up the hill to sell something on a hot day in July, I would just be like, oh my gosh, you walked all the way up that hill here. Here's my checkbook. What are you selling? God bless you. You're so committed, right? But I don't do that anymore. So this time, I opened the door and he's like, hi, what's your name? And I said my name because he threw me off, right? I was like, I'm Beth, right? And he goes, Miss Beth, it's so nice to meet you. And this was a good guy. This guy knew how to sell. He said, I was just across the street with your neighbor, Mr. Dave, and he just bought some of this product, and he said you would love to have it. And he pulls out this big bottle of cleaning fluid, and he sprays my mom's front window, and he pulls out a rag, and he begins to wipe the window down, and he's explaining to me this handy dandy, all-purpose, amazing miracle cleaner that when we buy this cleaner, we are never going to have to buy another cleaner again. Forever, right? It's the best ever. So I'm thinking in my head, what do I have to do to get rid of this guy? And where's Paul, right? That's what I was thinking. And I thought to myself, $30. It's going to be $30. So I hurry up and I get him to the point and I say, so how much is this? And he said, well, I'm glad you asked that, Miss Beth. It's $30 a bottle, minimum order 4. I was like, $120 for cleaners? I don't think so. And he was surprised. And he said to me, he pushed back. He said, Dan across the street, he bought 4 bottles. I'm really surprised that you don't want your mother's house to be clean. I can't believe that you would give up on this deal. I continue to say, I don't think so, I don't think so, I don't think so. And finally, he says to me, your neighbor Dan has 4 bottles. And I said, well, then if I need one, I know where to get one. Bam, he was shut down in a polite way, and he left. And I turned around, I'm like, where is Paul? Paul is right around the corner listening. And I said, honey, why didn't you come and rescue me? You know what Paul said to me? He said, you didn't need me. He said, I was right here if you needed me, but you didn't need me. And I thought, hey, I did it. I did that. Years ago, I would have bought all those cleaners, and I probably would have bought them for my neighbor too. Okay, I was an easy sale. Funny thing though, the next day I get up in the morning, the next day my mom texts me, she says, Beth, my windows are so clean. Do you think we can still get some of that cleaner? It was hilarious, but it worked for me. I don't think so. I want you to try that one because it's really hard for people to respond to, okay? Option 2, now this will work in a variety of situations. If you're, I don't know, family member that you don't really like wants you to go to a 1-week vacation with them, you could say, I wish I could, but but I don't recommend that you say you wish you could unless you really do wish you could, okay? So for example, just yesterday I used this one. Somebody who I really like, who is a friend, a colleague that I enjoy getting together with, and we have had a few 2-hour lunches where we've really enjoyed getting caught up with each other. She texted me yesterday and she said, "Can you do lunch next week?" And I said, "I wish I could." Because I do wish I could. I would love to go to a 2-hour lunch with her at the country club and catch up and laugh and drink champagne on a summer day. But I have a book deadline and I have to get this new book, The Essentials of Leadership Excellence, to my publisher by the end of October. And you guys, it's August, right? So for me, we've got a block on lunches right now. I don't have time to go to lunch until this project is finished. So I wish I could, but I have this deadline for my new writing project, so I can't. I'm blocked. But let's look back at this in November, okay? Or as soon as I finish that project. So I wish I could, but is very, very authentic, and I'm very comfortable with that one. Now, option number 3, I started using this one when I got a little bit more comfortable. And also this one sort of came in handy when I started getting higher level asks. So I wasn't necessarily being asked to do Boy Scout popcorn deliveries. At this point, I'm being asked to chair committees or join boards of directors. At this point is when I'm using this one. And sometimes often, I mean, even today, every week, I get a request to attend an event or to join a project or a cause or speak for a nonprofit or a community organization that I absolutely cannot do. It doesn't fit into the schedule anymore. It is a great compliment that people ask me, okay? And so I use this. Thanks for thinking of me. I can't do it. And maybe I would even say, I wish I could do it, because maybe in truth I would. Sometimes they're not a great fit though. So I can't, but, you know, and this happened, I remember when I said this is about 8 or 9 years ago, when I said this, and I didn't plan ahead to say it, but it came out. It was really interesting. I got asked to join a board of directors for a company. I don't remember the name of the company now, but it was not at all in any way aligned with where my career was headed, right? It didn't have anything to do with professional women in leadership. It didn't have anything to do with writing or speaking. It didn't have anything to do with public relations or business strategy or the things that I excel in. It was a very corporate company. It was, I think, probably a technology or a financial services company that was struggling. And they offered me a position on their board of directors. It was a Southern company with an office in Pittsburgh. And I know it was a Southern company because the guy called me little lady and he called me gal. He said, "We could really use a gal like you on this committee." Now, he didn't mean that as an insult, but I specifically remember thinking about it. Now, I didn't say, "Let me think about it." And I don't recommend you do that either, because "let me think about it" usually means I have an opportunity to talk her into it. Okay. But I was surprised by this particular opportunity to sit on this board of directors. It was a paid opportunity. It was a paid directorship position, but it would have required me to work 2 nights a month at meetings at this company, plus time in between. And, you know, if the company had done things, you know, in leadership or a way that I could stand out, I would have certainly considered it, but it was completely polar opposite of what I did. But it was so interesting. I had just met another gal, maybe, you know, that same week, I had met a young woman who was looking for a position in a male-dominated field, and she wanted a board position. I had just had coffee with her. And so at this case, it seemed to be very divinely guided that I said, you know, "Thanks for thinking of me. Honestly, I'm very flattered. This is not something I can help you with, but you know, I just met a woman who I believe is exactly what you're looking for." So it's a very gracious way for me to say no. I have to tell you that I was very tempted. And when you are teaching yourself to say no. You'll be tempted to, and you might even say yes to something that you wish you hadn't. You might even get bullied into saying yes to something that you wish you hadn't, okay? And that's okay, because it's practice. We're just always striving for excellence. We're always striving for improvement, but none of us are perfect, and we're not gonna ever be that. We're learning, right? And so I was tempted, okay? And I might have done that, especially at that time with 2 young boys about to go to college, just for the paycheck, right? But I felt very, very strongly that I needed to be somewhere else. And you know what? That was the winter before I started working with Steve Harvey. So fortunately, in that case, I trusted my intuition. Now, what happens if you mess up and you take a position? I don't believe you're going to be taken off of your life's purpose. I think things always work out the way they're meant to. I think that other things would have happened, and it may have taken me longer to get on that stage where I was, but I'm grateful for that. So option 3, thanks for thinking of me. I can't, but let me introduce you to. Okay, now this is for those, we do have a lot of attorneys and CPAs, and we have some executive leadership females here today. This is for you. You're going to use this option when somebody comes to you. What usually happens is, this usually happens in an office, and it usually happens where where a person doesn't have confidence in their role at work, or the person or the people have been so micromanaged. Somebody has been micromanaging them for so long that the employees are now fearful of making a mistake. So they don't have confidence for one reason or another. And so they are constantly coming to you to fix things and to oversee things that really they should be able to do on their own. So here's how you handle a situation like that, right? Yes, I can definitely help you with that. I'm busy right now. I usually would say something such as, I'm working on a proposal right now. I have something I need to finish right now. Come back after 4 p.m. if you still need me. Okay. Yes, I can definitely help you with that. I'm working on a proposal right now. Come back after 4 o'clock if you still need me. Okay. Some of you might be getting a little uncomfortable at the idea of saying that. And I understand why, because let me tell you what the reaction will be when you say that to someone for the first time, and you've been up until now, you've been dropping everything to go finish their work for them, and sometimes just do it for them, right? Now you're going to say something like this. This is what they're going to say to you. They're going to go, and sometimes they might even back out of the room perplexed. Now, what you've just done here, this is very important, that after you say, come back after 4 p.m. if you still need me, or how about giving me till 9:30? Looking at your clock. Sometimes you can even stand up from your seat to make sure that they don't come in and sit down. It's important that you pause here, because what you've just done is you've created some new energy, right? And what you've created is the energy, the feeling, the realization that your work is important and your work is priority, okay? And you've also created an expectation of, I know you can do this. You're qualified to do this. This can be uncomfortable. Even good change is uncomfortable, even when it's good, okay? So you've just made these 2 pretty bold statements, and maybe they've never been said in your office before. So you need to allow a little minute for that to settle, okay? Now, ideally, the person never comes back, but probably that's not going to happen the first few times. They're probably going to come back very timidly, and depending on the situation, they might say, I wanted to just wait until you could go over this with me. And that time you could say, I really think you can do this, but I am happy to give you the support you need. But I think you got this, right? Let them do it. Resist the urge to do it for them. Another thing is they could say, I did it. Here's what happened. And then you can say, I knew you could do it. Look, you don't have to come and ask me for help every time. You're good at your job, okay? Or, best case scenario is they don't come back. Ever. They start doing all of their own work by themselves. That's what we're looking for eventually, right? So that's option 4. Now, option 5 is one that's going to take a little bit more courage, a little bit more confidence. And this is really for those of you who are in the senior leadership positions where people are coming to you and they're saying, John is retiring and we're not going to replace him. So you're going to take over this part of John's job. And your partner over here is going to take over another part. So what we're going to do is we're just going to divide his responsibilities up among the 3 of you. Okay. Maybe that's possible, but I'm assuming that that's not possible. Usually what a man would say in a case like this, a man would usually say something like, it's not realistic, or it's not, he would probably not use the word realistic. Most men would say, it's not possible to get all of this done in a 40-hour week, or it's not possible to get this done in a 60-hour week, whatever it is in your industry. What would you like me not to do? That's what most men would say. What's a more comfortable way for a female to say it is, sure, I can take on an additional project. Which of these projects would you like me not to do? Also, very important that you pause here, and the tone here is really important. This can't be a smart, sassy tone because that's not productive. It can be, yes, I want to help the company, but it's not realistic. So what happens when you respond? What most of you do, and what I have done, is said, of course I can do that. And then you say to your colleague or your husband or your friend or your mother, I can't believe they want me to do this. I mean, what do they think I am? Superwoman, right? But it's better to state this right from the beginning. So maybe you've already agreed to do something like this, but you could have a meeting and you could say, you know, when you first came to me and asked me to take on this project, I agreed. I do want to be supportive of the company, but as I'm getting into this, I'm seeing that this isn't realistic. One of these projects is going to have to be delegated. You see, this is a proactive, emotionally intelligent conversation. I hope that the people you're talking to are also proactive and emotionally intelligent. If so, things can work out really well here. And what might happen is some of the work that you're doing that you're really a little bit too qualified to do can be delegated to somebody else, and you can take on more meaty projects or projects that might get you a raise, right? But it comes by being bold enough to make a statement like this. What's the thing on this? What here should I not focus on? Okay. You have to say this in a really calm tone, and you definitely have to work on that pause. Okay. You can't just keep talking after you make a statement like this, right? That's option 5. Now, option 6, this is what I use. This is what I've used most recently. And this is when I'm getting requests to attend events or sponsor events, because I get a lot of requests to give people money. And, you know, you can only support so many causes at one time, right? So I think your project is fantastic. I have too much on my plate right now. Or in the case of donating money, you might say, we've already chosen our charities to support for 2019. You could say something like that. You don't want to definitely say no to a community organization that's coming to your door, knocking on the door and saying, will you give money to the softball team? No, right? You don't want to say that. We choose our charities at the beginning of the year. It's really important to us to be active in the community. We think your baseball team is fantastic, or your rugby team, or your whatever it is, right? Now, if it's for you to actually volunteer with them, your project is fantastic. I have too much on my plate, so I can't help. Now, sometimes what I also do here is I'll say, I think this sounds fantastic. You're doing very important work. I can't help you, but I'll tell you what I can do. I can't join your committee, but I'll tell you what I can do. If you send me your information, I'll be happy to forward it on to my colleagues, my friends, my clients, my email list, whatever's appropriate, when you're in need of sponsors or when you're selling your tickets. Just get back to me when you're at that point, okay? So sometimes I'll even volunteer to do something that I can do, okay? But we can't help everybody. Now, I don't get asked to do a lot anymore because people really do respect my boundaries now. And they do, because I've polished myself and how I handle these situations. And here's how I polish myself, right? when you are saying no, and when you're getting started saying no, what you want to do is you don't want the person that you're talking to look like this, right? You want to avoid two things. You want to avoid apologizing, and you want to avoid over explaining, okay? So can you help me cook for the homeless shelter? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm really sorry. I can't. Geez, I'm sorry. You can't do that. That doesn't make you appear as a polished professional leader, right? Don't over apologize. Or I'm really, really sorry. You know, my brother's getting married. I mean, it's just not possible. I'm not even going to be in the country. Gosh, I'm sorry about that, right? Don't do that. Another thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to over explain. We women have a terrible habit of over explaining. You know, I would love to help you, but you know, Susie's in a musical and Johnny's in baseball playoffs. I mean, he's doing these, what do you call those things that you kids do? The tournaments, the baseball tournaments, and Susie's in a musical and Johnny's in a tournament. Honestly, I love it when he wins, but geez, we're kind of happy when he loses because those things go on and on and on. And you know, my dad just had knee replacement and my cat gets his medication 4 times a day. I have to leave. Things are so hectic at the office. I have to leave. I got to give the cat medicine. You know, I haven't taken my kids to the dentist in 2 years on and on. They don't need to know that. They don't need to know that. So avoid the need to over explain. And for goodness sakes, don't tell them anything personal, right? We've heard those personal stories. We don't need to know that. We're already thinking who we can call next to ask to join the committee. So avoid apologizing and avoid that need to over explain. So instead of apologizing, instead of over explaining, I'd love to help, but I have no time right now. Good luck with your project. You're doing really important work. Super simple. Take a deep breath. When you catch yourself over explaining, which you will, you'll probably laugh about it. When you catch yourself apologizing and over explaining, and just catch yourself. And the next time, you'll catch yourself before you over explain. Okay? You'll catch yourself saying you're sorry a few times, and then you'll catch yourself before you say you're sorry. Okay? So let's review. Here are the 6 ways that you can say no. I don't think so. Mom, can I have a new... Mom, can we go to Disney World? I don't think so. Okay, another one. I wish I could. I wish I could. I wish I could go on vacation with you, but I wish I could go to lunch with you, but I have to finish my manuscripts, okay? Thank you so much for thinking of me. This is not something I can help you with, but you know, I think I know the perfect person. Now, let's say you don't know the perfect person. Thanks for thinking of me. It's not something I can help you with. If I think of anybody, I'll be sure to pass their information on to you, okay? Sure, yes, absolutely, I can help you with that. Come back here at 4 p.m. when I'm finished with this proposal. Yes, absolutely, I can take on that project. What project would you like me not to do? And you're doing great work. I'm sorry, I can't help you. Oh, I just said sorry. Don't say sorry. You're doing fantastic work. I can't help you right now. Best of luck with it. Keep me posted. That's so funny that I just said sorry. All right, which one of those 6 will you try first? Let me know. And when you try them, and they work, please let me know. I mean, I'm really anxious. As I said, this is the first time I've ever taught this workshop, so I'm really interested to know and how these strategies help when you're out there in the world trying them, okay? Now, if you have any challenges that you don't want to talk about today, I know that you guys are typing in your questions now, and after I stop the recording, I'm going to come ahead and answer your questions. So if you haven't written your questions into the question box, the Q/A box in our webinar chat room, please go ahead and type those in now. And once I end the recording, I will go ahead and answer them. But if you are watching the recording of this and I can't answer your questions, here is a link that you can click on, and we can set up a 20-minute mini strategy coaching session where you can ask me a question about your life or your business, a challenge that you're having, and we'll see how we can work it out. Okay, that's the link directly to my calendar where you can schedule a 20-minute session. Now, if you enjoyed today's workshop, I do have a handout. If you're watching this recording, so if you're watching us live, you are going to get the recording in a day or two. If you're watching the recording now, you got this by an email. Either way, just reply to that email and say, hey, Beth, please say thanks for the work. I still do like that I like the praise, right? So you can say, hey, that was a great webinar. And then, can I have the handout, 6 favorite ways to say no? And I will send that to you. And I want you to, please share this recording with your friends. Share this handout with women in your office. Print it out. Put it in your waiting room. This is really important information that we need to pass this out among women who have been taught that it's rude to say no. And we need to be a great influence to the women who are not doing what they're meant to do because they're doing what they think they should be doing. That's really what is my mission here with this workshop. So if you like this recording and you want the handout, just reply to that email and I'll be happy to, either me or somebody on my team will send you that PDF sheet that you can share with your friends and family. So if we don't know each other personally, thank you for spending your lunchtime with me. I do want to stay connected with you. You can find me on all the social media pages, and my Facebook page is Inspired by Beth Caldwell. I hope that you are able to begin to say no to some of the things that you've been doing out of habit, so that you can begin to start saying yes to the important things that can help you create a positive impact in this world. Thanks so much for spending some time with me, and good luck to you. Bye-bye.